A 67-year-old millionaire is buried in sand up to his neck on a Belize beach. Police helicopters circle overhead. He breathes through a cardboard tube. This is John McAfee, the man whose antivirus software protected millions of computers. Now, he's hiding from a murder charge. His neighbor was found shot in the head. One bullet, execution style. The two men had been feuding over dogs. McAfee's dogs died poisoned. 24 hours later, the neighbor was dead. When police arrive to question McAfee, he's gone. What follows is 18 months of escapes that humiliate 3 governments. He flees Belize by boat, gets caught in Guatemala, fakes 2 heart attacks to avoid deportation back, tricks them into sending him to America instead, then runs again when the IRS comes after him for tax evasion. He lives on a yacht for over a year, tweeting his location while the FBI hunts him. Spain finally catches him at Barcelona airport in 2020. Hours after his extradition to America gets approved, he's found hanging in his cell. Official ruling? Suicide. His wife says murder. This is how a tech millionaire became a fugitive, why he couldn't stop running, and what really happened in that prison cell. John McAfee didn't start as a fugitive. He started as a coder who understood fear. 1987, Silicon Valley. Personal computers are everywhere. So are viruses. The brain virus spreads through floppy disks, deleting files, crashing systems. Companies panic. McAfee works at Lockheed as a programmer. He sees the chaos and writes a solution. 12 lines of code. A detection program. He calls it Virus Scan. Companies start calling. Within months, he quits his job and sells the software full-time. McAfee Associates launches from the trunk of his car. His genius isn't just technical, it's psychological. In interviews, he warns that computer viruses will cause companies to collapse from financial loss. The terror is real, but McAfee amplifies it. Desperate IT managers buy his solution. By 1990, half the Fortune 100 are customers. Revenue hits $5 million annually, then doubles every 6 months. John McAfee becomes Silicon Valley royalty, the man who tamed digital chaos. But he hates it. Board meetings suffocate him. Quarterly earnings calls feel like prison. Shareholders want conformity. Regulators demand compliance. Lawyers review everything. This is a man who got expelled from a doctoral program for sleeping with a professor's daughter, who got fired for showing up high on hallucinogens, who hosted occult ceremonies at company headquarters just to antagonize corporate culture. He doesn't want to be CEO. He wants to be free. 1993, he sells his shares for $100 million and walks away. Age 48. Set for life. For years, he drifts. Yoga retreats, ultralight aircraft, Eastern philosophy. Nothing sticks. Then, 2008 hits. The financial crash evaporates most of his fortune. His net worth drops from 9 figures to $4 million. The loss doesn't humble him, it radicalizes him. Governments and institutions are parasites, he decides, designed to drain individual freedom. He tells a reporter, "I'll never let the state own my life." 2009, he boards a plane to Belize. Belize offers what America can't. No extradition treaty with the US, no IRS jurisdiction, minimal oversight, just Caribbean coastline and the promise of autonomy. John buys a beachside villa on Ambergris Key, then a jungle compound near Orange Walk. He hires armed bodyguards, ex-convicts, local muscle, men comfortable with violence. He builds a makeshift laboratory, claims he's researching herbal antibiotics that will cure drug-resistant bacteria, surrounds himself with teenage girlfriends, pays them, protects them, controls them. Locals whisper about the American millionaire. Some say he's insane. Others say dangerous. Most say both. By day, John pilots his ultralight plane over the reef. By night, he throws parties with automatic weapons displayed on tables like centerpieces. He launches Quoramex, a pharmaceutical company meant to legitimize his jungle experiments. To outsiders, he's an eccentric expat playing scientist, but his paranoia is growing. Business instincts that built an empire now curdle into isolation psychosis. He picks fights with local gangsters over territory, argues with neighbors about noise and dogs. His compound houses 9 mastiffs, massive, aggressive dogs bred for protection. They roam the property freely, bark through the night, occasionally bite tourists on the beach. 50 yards away lives Gregory Fall, a 52-year-old expat from Florida who moved to Belize for peace and sunshine. Instead, he got John McAfee as a neighbor. Fall files complaints with the mayor. Noise violations, dangerous animals. He confronts McAfee directly. "Control your dogs or I'll take care of them myself." John refuses. He needs the dogs for security. The feud simmers for weeks. Then, April 30th, 2012 arrives. Dawn. The gang suppression unit hits McAfee's compound without warning. No warrants shown. Officers in tactical gear storm the property. They line up McAfee, his girlfriend, and his staff against a wall at gunpoint. His 4 mastiffs charge. One dog lunges, growling. A shotgun blast drops the animal mid-stride. "You killed my fucking dog!" McAfee screams. Officers pin him face down in dirt. They loot every structure for 6 hours, overturn lab equipment, confiscate rifles and pistols, seize bottles of chemicals McAfee claims are antibiotic compounds. At the end of the raid, 0 drugs recovered. The only charge? Possessing an unlicensed firearm, a paperwork misdemeanor. They haul him to Belize City anyway, throw him in the Hattieville prison holding tank. Locals call it the piss house because an open sewer runs through it. McAfee spends one night there, bribes a guard $100 for a single cigarette, uses a garbage bag as a belt because they confiscated his. He's released the next morning without charges. But the damage is done. A switch flips in John's brain. He decides the government wants him dead. After the raid, he sleeps with a Glock under his pillow, installs tripwires and cameras around the compound, babbles to visitors about assassination plots, cartels, corrupt police working together. Belize's prime minister later calls him extremely paranoid, even bonkers. John wears it as a compliment. Only the paranoid survive. Meanwhile, the feud with Gregory Fall escalates. Fall filed the noise complaints. He threatened the dogs. And on November 9th, 2012, something breaks. That night, McAfee's dogs start foaming at the mouth. One by one, 4 animals collapse, convulsing. By dawn, they're dead. Poisoned. John is devastated. Then, enraged, he orders his staff to shoot the dying dogs to end their suffering. He grabs his pistol and paces the compound, seething. Someone sent a message. Maybe the cartels. Maybe that gringo neighbor who threatened them. 24 hours later, November 10th, 2012, a single gunshot cracks the night air on Ambergris Key. Neighbors hear it, dismiss it as firecrackers or a car backfiring. The next morning, Sunday, November 11th, a housekeeper finds Gregory Fall face up on his villa floor in a pool of blood. A 9mm round through the back of his head, execution style. His laptop and cell phone are missing. The island freezes in shock. An American murdered in paradise. Belize police immediately attempt to question Fall's volatile neighbor. When officers arrive at McAfee's compound around noon, they find the gate open and the house abandoned. John saw them coming. He grabbed his girlfriend Samantha and vanished into the jungle. By the time officers knock on his door, he's already underground, literally buried in sand with a cardboard breathing tube, waiting for helicopters to pass. John doesn't run blind. He's been planning this for months. Within 6 hours of going underground, he and Samantha are moving through a network of hideouts in the Belizean interior. Abandoned warehouses, sympathetic locals' homes, a fishing shack on a mangrove river. Police and soldiers sweep the district with dogs and helicopters. They set up roadblocks on every highway, raid houses of anyone connected to McAfee. But John stays a ghost. On day 3, holed up in a concrete bunker while police search 200 yards away, John finds an old TV. He tunes into Swiss Family Robinson, the 1960 film about castaways building a life on a deserted island. He sits, eating canned beans, watching the Robinson family construct a bamboo fortress. laughing at the parallel. But every hour in Belize reduces his odds of freedom. The gang suppression unit is closing in. Informants are talking. Borders are locked down. He needs an exit. November 14th, 2012. 3 days after Fall's murder. Under cover of darkness, McAfee boards a small fishing boat on Belize's southern coast. He pays the captain $2,000 cash for an illegal crossing into Guatemala. No passport stamp, no records. The boat cuts its engine a mile offshore and drifts into Guatemalan waters. At 3 a.m., they land at a deserted beach near Puerto Barrios. John and Samantha wade ashore and disappear into jungle. By sunrise, they're in Guatemala City, checking into the Villa Real Hotel under fake names. For the first time in 72 hours, John exhales. He's escaped Belize. But he can't resist the spotlight. With Fall's murder dominating international headlines, John decides to control the narrative. He contacts Vice magazine through encrypted email, offering exclusive access to the world's most wanted antivirus mogul. The Vice editor and photographer fly to Guatemala. They spend 2 days with John. He grins through a scraggly beard, arm around the journalist's shoulder. They post photos and a triumphant blog update. "We've made it to safety." The article goes viral. John feels invincible, but he just made the biggest mistake possible. Within hours of posting, a hacker tweets, "John, I found you. Check your photos' EXIF data." The picture Vice published contains GPS metadata, exact coordinates of the hotel. Every intelligence agency and police force on the planet now knows where McAfee is. His media stunt just turned into catastrophic error. No se mueva. Handcuffs snap on. Cameras flash. Guatemalan authorities parade their infamous catch before world press. The charge? Illegal entry. The consequence? Deportation to Belize within 48 hours. For John, Belize is a death sentence. He's convinced the moment he's handed over, he'll vanish into a cell or a shallow grave. The clock is ticking. December 6th, 2012. 1 day after his arrest. Locked in a detention cell, McAfee collapses to the floor, clutching his chest. "Mi corazón," he gasps, turning pale. Guards panic. An ambulance rushes him to a Guatemala City hospital. News breaks worldwide. John McAfee has suffered 2 heart attacks in custody. The Guatemalan government, terrified of an international incident, pauses deportation. Reporters swarm the hospital. John lies on a gurney with oxygen tubes, grimacing dramatically for cameras. 48 hours later, doctors announce he's stable. No heart damage detected. Slightly elevated blood pressure. Nothing more. John smirks at the press. "Of course I didn't have a heart attack." He later admits he faked it. Hyperventilated and held his breath to spike blood pressure readings. Sold the performance with conviction. The stunt bought his lawyers time to file emergency appeals, gum up bureaucracy. And in that chaos, Guatemala's government takes the path of least resistance. They deport John McAfee not to Belize, but to the United States. A legal quirk. He entered Guatemala illegally from Belize, so they can technically repatriate him to his country of origin. John just checkmated an entire nation. December 12th, 2012. Miami International Airport. John McAfee walks off the plane. Disheveled, unshaven, victorious. He just outfoxed a 2-country manhunt, faked a medical emergency, and turned guaranteed capture into a free ticket home. Federal agents question him briefly, but with no U.S. charges pending, they release him. John strolls into Florida sunshine, flashing a grin to cameras. It's good to be home. He's eluded Belize. The question is, for how long? January 2013, Portland, Oregon. John McAfee marries Janice, a former Miami escort 30 years his junior, whom he met his first night back in the States. They settle into a rented condo. John tries domesticity, coffee in mornings, walks in the park, Netflix at night. The experiment lasts 4 months. He's bored senseless. By summer, he's back to provocation. He produces a viral YouTube video, How to Uninstall McAfee Antivirus. A surreal dark comedy featuring John surrounded by guns and women, snorting bath salts while mocking the software that still bears his name. The video racks up millions of views. Next, he announces a presidential run in 2016 under the newly created Cyber Party. Campaign platform: legalize drugs, abolish the IRS, encrypt everything. He polls at 0%, but generates headlines. John McAfee isn't living, he's performing. By 2018, he's found his next act: cryptocurrency evangelist. Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins. John declares them the future and himself their prophet. He lives on a 75-foot yacht equipped with satellite internet, an armory of firearms, and Janice as first mate. Why a yacht? Because he knows what's coming. John hasn't filed a tax return since 2010, hasn't paid $1 to the IRS in 8 years. Taxation is theft, he tells interviewers. The IRS is a criminal organization. The IRS, unsurprisingly, disagrees. January 2019, a federal grand jury in Tennessee secretly indicts McAfee on 8 counts of tax evasion, failure to file returns, willful evasion, potential decades in prison. A source tips John off. Rather than surrender, he fires up his yacht's engines and disappears into the Caribbean. He tweets a photo of himself on deck, rifle in hand. Today, I left the US. I'm freer than ever. What follows is an 18-month maritime game of cat and mouse, unmatched in modern fugitive history. McAfee country hops by sea: Cuba, Dominican Republic, Bahamas, possibly Venezuela. Every few days, a new harbor. Every few days, a new taunting tweet. He's living on cash and cryptocurrency, using encrypted phones and VPNs to mask location. Claims he employs body doubles and disguises. He posts photos with lookalikes. Jokes that even seeing him doesn't mean you've seen him. When your passport is flagged, every airport is a trap. Every border crossing, a gamble. John avoids commercial flights entirely. One passport scan, and he's finished. Instead, he relies on constant motion and constant publicity as twin shields. In a paradox, his fame protects him. Governments prefer quiet arrests. John makes that impossible by broadcasting his location, or decoy locations, to 2 million followers. He gives live interviews from undisclosed rooms, dares the IRS to come find me. He tweets a photo, supposedly from Norway, wearing a thong as a face mask. Claims Norwegian police arrested him for it. It's a prank. Authorities chase phantoms. July 24th, 2019. Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. McAfee's yacht docks for refueling. Local authorities, tipped by Interpol alerts, swarm the pier. They board the vessel and detain John, Janice, and crew on suspicion of illegal firearms. In his possession, 4 shotguns, 3 handguns, enough ammunition to outfit a small militia. He's caught. After 4 days of negotiations and likely cash-changing hands, the Dominican Republic releases him without charges. They want no part in this circus. John raises a glass of rum as the yacht pulls away. Even when I'm arrested, I walk free. But the net tightens. By late 2019, McAfee relocates to Eastern Europe, posts cryptic videos from safe houses. I've collected files on corruption in governments worldwide. If I go down, they all go down with me. Bluff or threat, insurance or delusion, it doesn't matter. In October 2020, perhaps limited by COVID travel restrictions, perhaps simply exhausted, John does something uncharacteristic. He and Janice rent an apartment near Barcelona, Spain. He ventures out rarely. On October 5th, 2020, he heads to Barcelona's El Prat airport, reportedly bound for Istanbul. At check-in, a passport scanner flags his name. Within minutes, Spanish police surround him. John McAfee is arrested at the request of the U.S. Department of Justice. The game is over. June 23rd, 2021. Brian's 2, prison, Barcelona. John McAfee, 75 years old, sits in a concrete cell awaiting extradition to the United States. He's been locked up for 8 months. No guns, no gadgets, no Twitter on demand, just walls and time. Through his lawyers, he manages sporadic tweets. In one, he writes, "I'm content here. I have friends. But know that if I hang myself, a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine." The reference is unmistakable. Jeffrey Epstein, The financier found dead in a federal cell under suspicious circumstances. John's followers take note. He'd even gotten a tattoo months earlier, WHACKD, claiming he'd been warned of a plot against him. To the public, he insists he will not commit suicide. To the Spanish court, he insists the charges are politically motivated, that he's a dissident being persecuted for speaking against government overreach. The court is unmoved. U.S. prosecutors work through diplomatic channels, building their case. The charges are severe. 8 counts of tax evasion, millions owed, potential life sentence given his age. Separate fraud charges allege he manipulated cryptocurrency prices through pump and dump schemes, defrauding investors. McAfee knows if extradited, he'll die in an American prison. He tells a confidant he will not permit that fate. Still, in messages to Janice, he remains defiant. I have no fear of what's coming. And perhaps he believes it. On June 23, 2021, 1 p.m., the Spanish National Court signs John McAfee's extradition order. Within the hour, a court officer delivers the news to Brian's 2. John is informed he'll be transferred to U.S. custody imminently, possibly within days. He calls Janice. I love you. I'll call you this evening. But there is no evening call. At approximately 7 p.m., guards conducting a routine check find John McAfee hanging from a bedsheet in his cell. Paramedics arrive within minutes. They pronounce him dead at 7:23 p.m. Official cause? Suicide by hanging. He was 75 years old. Caught at last, but never tried. Janice publicly insists John was not suicidal, that he was upbeat in their last conversation, that the timing, hours after the extradition order, is too convenient. Spanish authorities conduct an autopsy. Toxicology shows no drugs. Cause of death confirmed: asphyxiation, consistent with hanging. The investigation rules it suicide. But conspiracy theories flood the internet. Did John have files on powerful people? Was he silenced? Or did he orchestrate one final trick, fake his death, escape into legend? The most tragic possibility? The man who vowed never to yield simply made the only exit left on his terms. John McAfee's body remained in a Spanish morgue for months while legal battles over his estate unfolded. Even in death, his story resisted closure. Here was a man who built an empire on fear, who turned paranoia into profit, who fought the law for a decade and mostly won. He lived as a digital age outlaw, hopping borders and thumbing his nose at governments, transforming his life into performance art. He once said, in a rare, quiet moment, "It's better to live one day as a lion than 1,000 years as a lamb." John McAfee lived exactly how he chose and died the same way.